All right. Welcome everybody to our Higher Education and Legislative Advocacy Town Hall, our HELA Town Hall. Thank you so much for joining us today. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is great. My name is Miranda Lopez. I am United Campus Workers local treasurer, and I'm also a graduate student at the University of Arizona. I am also the Southern Regional Director for Arizona Students Association. We advocate for students in the state legislature, and I am going to be your MC tonight. So I would love to introduce our panelists. We were going to hear very quickly from our HELU partners. I don't see them here, so I'm just going to share their message that they sent out about the federal funding freeze and some of the issues going on with immigration. But they have been huge partners in this, putting this event together. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to move to our panelists. So we have I'm so sorry, Anne Langendorfger, Lauren Kuby, Nancy Gutierrez, and Jill Penn. And if you all wouldn't mind going around to introduce yourselves, talk about the work that you do, and why you're here tonight. And we will start with Anne.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I know sometimes the microphone on these isn't great, and I haven't put my headphone on yet tonight, but I just want to say hello. I'm calling in tonight from Knoxville, Tennessee, and as president of United Campus Workers Southeast, which is our brand new mega local here in the Southeast in District 3 of CWA. We are very happy to report that legislative work continues to be really important to the work that members across the Southeast do. And I believe, and I should have checked before tonight, but I believe that most of our state members participate in some form of lobby day or day on the Hill. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you so much. Jill, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Jill Penn, and I'm happy to be with Anne Langendorfer in United Campus Workers Southeast. I'm the treasurer. And yes, we're at all different stages in our big 8-state local. And yeah, some have different amounts of experience with legislative work. And I'm most familiar with Georgia because I'm a associate professor of biology at Georgia Gwinnett College. And so I've been doing legislative work in Georgia, but we're excited to do it in all 8 states as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Representative Gutierrez.
Hi, everyone. Nancy Gutierrez. I am an Arizona state legislator, and I serve the people of LD 18, which in Arizona is in Tucson. I'm not in Tucson right now because we're in session. I'm in Phoenix, and my dogs are like on the bed. We'll see. But I also serve as the assistant minority leader in the House, and I am a public school teacher and a member of the Arizona Education Association and National Education Association. So I'm thrilled to be here as a union member and as a legislator.
Thank you so much. And Senator Kuby.
Thank you. And I just need to shout out Representative Gutierrez because she's introduced legislation to fully fund school lunch programs, and so glad that we have her in the House and in leadership. So Lauren Kuby, I'm a state senator, freshly minted state senator from LD8, which is parts of Tempe, including the ASU campus, and Scottsdale, and Phoenix, and Mesa, and Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian community. So we're a very vast and broad district and very progressive. You know, I won by 60% with 60% of the vote, and it's not because I'm so beloved. It's because it's very progressive district, and I'm proud to represent the values of that district. I'm also a proud member of the United Campus Workers, and so, by the way, is our Senate Minority Leader, Priya Sundaresan. She is a proud member. She's from U of A, and I worked for ASU for 25 years, so now I'm alum union member. And I still remain a senior global futures scientist And when I was on the Tempe City Council for 2 terms and vice mayor, I led on a lot of labor issues, including earned sick days and earned equal pay projects that is supposed to be the best equal pay program in the entire country, according to the University Association of American Association of University Women. So I have a history of union activities, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm hoping I'll learn something by being here, and I really want to listen and not just hear myself talk. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to our legislators who are here tonight. I know that it's been a very long day. It's been a very long month. So thank you so much for your time. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first question. And this first question is actually geared towards Anne and Jill. And so if you both could, can you tell us about any legislative wins that you've gotten with your union, and what impact has your legislative advocacy had on your union or on the institutions that you work at? And whoever would like to start. This is more of a dialogue a little bit.
I could take this one. So I could start. So we've had a couple of really big wins. I think 2 major big wins in Georgia. It didn't happen immediately. We had to talk with our legislators for several years before we developed relationships and were able to get something accomplished. But in Georgia, prior to 2023, I started my job in Georgia in 2014, and I was not aware that they had stopped giving cost of living adjustments. They stopped this in 1990. So nobody was getting cost of living adjustments. So we made that a priority. And after about 5 years, maybe less than 5 years, we were able to get the first cost of living adjustments in over 32 years. And we got, for 3 years in a row, we were able to get those. There was also a student fee that graduate students and undergraduates were paying, some up to $1,000 a year, which was started during the recession because it was needed. But after a few years, the economy was doing better. They should have gotten rid of it, and they didn't. So we fought to remove that fee, and we won that as well.
I think that the comment that I'll just add to what Jill said is that, because we're only recently formed as a local that includes 8 states, that I'll speak to my experience in Tennessee and just say that one of the reasons that I really got involved in UCW to begin with was because of legislative wins. So one of the things I'd like to just share with folks in Arizona is that it is a very, very empowering tool to see your fellow members develop relationships, like Jill was saying, with legislators. And in our case, across party line, right? We were working with many people of different parties, but especially many of our members would align themselves with Democratic politics, at least in, pretty general ways, and to work with Republicans on things that we knew we really cared about and that really mattered to us. So the biggest win was in 2017 when, after multiple attempts to outsource campus jobs to a private equity company, the governor decided, instead of to forcing the measure through the legislature, they had basically fought him. It was a big inter-party fight. They passed it off to our chancellor to make the decision, and we were able to change our target in the midst of that campaign and win. And they did not outsource the jobs that we very much wanted to save as public sector jobs. And there was never any proven savings. There's a lot of bluster, a lot of talk, but we really, because of the relationships developed, we're able to use all of our members working together, not just directly in conversation with our legislators, but with our community, and build out support in a variety of different directions. So I'm really heartened to see legislators here, because I think that is actually how this happens, is that you have to figure out how to build relationships, including building relationships with people that you might otherwise have very little in common with.
Great, thank you so much. And also just for our audience, if you guys have any questions at all, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. We are going to start like collecting questions for our Q&A and discussion that we have towards the end. So feel free to throw your questions in the chat. And we're going to move on to our legislators and ask both Senator Kuby and Representative Gutierrez, what types, oh wait, no, hold on, wait. What is your role in the legislature? Hold on, go back a slide. There you go. What is your role in the legislature? And how have you advocated as a lawmaker for issues impacting labor? And again, whoever would like to go first.
I guess I can start. So our role, we're in the minority. We had very much hoped to gain a majority, a Democratic majority in the legislature. It would have been the first time since 1965 where Democrats had the majority. We were just one seat away in the Senate, and I believe 2 seats in the House. We didn't lose as badly as some other states, other purple states did, and so we attribute that to a lot of our on the ground canvassing and the most voter contact we've ever had in the history of state politics. But let's face it, we're in the minority. That means we are on the defensive, but not showing our underbelly, being out there proudly defending the values that we believe we have the majority of Arizonans with us on the issues, whether it's the funding of public education, whether it's supporting a minority in frontline communities, abortion rights. We passed abortion access initiative. We enshrined abortion access into the Arizona Constitution. So I can give you more issues, but we have strong support for public education in amongst the Arizona electorate. So we need to really stay firm and fight these terrible bills. We need to kill the bills, where the last defense, though, will be the governor, who will use her veto pen. But we're also recognizing this is an election year, and we need to really ensure that we don't put all of this on the governor. We need to really fight. And how do we do that? We need to adopt principles of outside-in organizing and bring people to the Capitol. If we can get them in a committee meeting and get a committee bill heard, all the better. And then we bring in people who tell their personal stories. If we can't, we have press conferences and forums and legislator at your corner events like I'm establishing with my seatmates. We need to bring people's attention to these issues, because we probably aren't going to hear that many bills heard in committee. So, and that's a disappointing fact of being in a red state, where they just won't hear Democratic bills unless they're, so inconsequential. They do it as sort of like a pat on the back. So, my intention, and I haven't been a legislator for very long, but as I was in city council, to try and be outspoken in support of the union movement, which in some ways is in its ascendancy. We're in a terrible political state and a terrible state in our democracy, but I believe people, and young people especially, are more open to the labor movement than they ever have been.
Yep, I totally agree with everything Senator Kuby just said. So my role is, I have a role in leadership, assistant minority leader, but I'm also ranking member on our education committee. And I sit on the appropriations committee. And unfortunately, we absolutely are on, most of what we do is combat bad bills. I'll give you an example. Last week or the week before, I don't even know how many days we've been there, but in the appropriations, one of the bills was to give our public monies that go to the Arizona Teacher Academy to private colleges in our state. So basically, vouchers for higher education, which we have always rallied against because the private universities are not regulated by any state board. They can be discriminatory, they can teach whatever they want. And we were literally threatened in committee, and I highlighted it and posted it. The chair of our appropriations committee said, well, if the Democrats aren't going to support this public money going into private sector colleges, then we'll just defund the entire Arizona Teacher Academy. Yeah. They have also tried to, because of federal cuts may be coming, they as the Republicans, and because of federal cuts that we're hearing last week in appropriations, we were just the chair said that we need to cut our disability funding and funding for parents as caretakers because we're not going to be funded by the federal government. I'm expecting to see that in public education as well, because we know that the bill has already come in Congress to do away with the Department of Education. So they are feeling quite emboldened, I would say, right now, the Republicans. But as far as labor goes, in the House, we are doing something called Member Mondays for all of our members, and we brought in all of our labor folks to just give them a space to talk to our members, to meet them, to tell us what issues are important. Unfortunately, sometimes our labor friends are divided on an issue. There's a bill coming forward about the Diamondbacks being able to not pay taxes, basically. So unfortunately, sometimes we have caucus dividers even within our labor community, which is difficult. And then, yeah, we did pass a $3.8 million appropriation in education to make sure that reduced lunch kids are free lunch. But I mean, that's $3.8 million out of a very large budget. So it's a win. And I've been working on it since I got into the legislature. It's lovely. I'm thrilled. And I mean, if it were up to me, it would be $100 million to feed all kids breakfast and lunch. But, baby steps.
Well, can I just add one thing to the representative comment? I think we need to call it what it is. Like what they're committing now is legislative terrorism. They really are, the threats, and it's on the backs of working families and the disabled community. I got over 100 personal emails from folks over the weekend just alarmed at Representative Livingston's threat to defund disability services, and just outrageous when you consider that the expanded school voucher program might cost $1 billion, and here he is threatening the disability community. Like, that's not okay, and we need to call them out on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Representative Gutierrez, before we move on to our next question, would you mind just quickly explaining what the Arizona Teachers Academy is? We have a lot of folks in the chat who might be unfamiliar with that.
Yes, I'm sorry. The Arizona Teacher Academy is a scholarship program for our public universities and even some of our community colleges that do have programs to certify teachers. And this is a program where students can apply for and get a 4-year, up to a 4-year scholarship to become a teacher in Arizona. And they commit to staying in Arizona and teaching as many years as they took the scholarship. So it is a huge boost for us. However, it has been underfunded, and only one of our 3 state universities is actively recruiting for this scholarship because U of A and NAU have decided, well, why are we recruiting for a scholarship that we don't have money to fund? So the Republicans took that and said, well, there's no waiting list, so now we can add in Grand Canyon University. We disagree because we just don't believe that public tax dollars should go to private universities. But that's it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move on to our last question. We are right on time. And this question is for all of our panelists tonight. So we'll kind of work our way down the line. So based on your experience, what types, let me wait for the slide to change here. There we go. So based on your personal experience and your experience, whether it's working in labor, whether it's being in the legislature, what types of labor advocacy strategies would you say are the most successful in red majority state legislatures? And what advice do you have for UCWAZ in planning for our first Legislative Advocacy Day? And we can go ahead and start with Jill. Are you ready? You look like you have a ready face.
I have a few ideas on this one. So strategies and advice. So one thing, I guess, so for advice, I think what I want to point out to UCW Arizona is one thing that really sped up our wins, I think, was forming a relationship with the CWA lobbyist from Georgia. His name's Tony Tilley. And he, this was a great advantage for being part of United Campus Workers, part of CWA, because our telecom workers in Georgia have had a lobbyist at the state legislature for I don't know how long, decades. And so he's developed relationships with a lot of the legislators. And, he knows, okay, this guy is interested in data, show, these charts and graphs about, why this is affecting your cost of living, your those kinds of things. And this other person, they're more interested in your story, tell your story. Knows what might trigger them and to help us. And he is very good at working with Republicans because he's had to for the last 30 years. And so he knows, he's very helpful with tips. So I would say reach out to whoever. You've got to have a lobbyist in Arizona who's part of CWA, I imagine. And the thing that but you also have relationships with representative and senator, which is wonderful, because we didn't have that close of relationships in Georgia. We had to build those. And the one thing that helped was a common interest that our union had with one of the state senators. That state senator was Sally Harrell. The only way we would have known that she had a common interest with us was through Tony Tilley, the CWA lobbyist, who's there every day, every day of the legislative session, talking with everybody, forming relationships, finding out what people are working on. And this was the student fee issue. Our state senator, Sally Harrell, wanted to change the fee structure for different reasons than us. But because we both cared about it, we worked together. She was able to get one of our graduate students to come and testify at a hearing to talk about how the fee has made the lives of graduate students difficult. She's also good at working. She was a Democrat, is a Democrat, and she's good at talking to Republicans. She knows which ones to talk to get things accomplished. And so I think that combination of using all the resources that are available to us, talking with the CWA lobbyists, finding legislators who have a common interest, and build those relationships with your legislators. It may take time. So the other thing I would say is have patience. Think about the long term. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Representative Gutierrez, would you mind going next?
Sure. Yes. I mean, I think Jill had fantastic points. It is a marathon, not a sprint, because it is about those relationships. You do need a good lobbyist. But also, I think, Miranda, just like you did with me, just, reaching out and saying, hey, you represent Tucson. This is who we are. Inviting me to, the forums and things like that. That was fantastic. I learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot. So lobbyists are great. And just that one-on-one personal contact is really fantastic. I would say inviting the local legislators to events is a great way to go. Sorry. But you also, you have to find, in Arizona's case, the Republicans that you can work with, because honestly, a bill needs to be in a Republican's name to get it passed. Like over 90% of the bills are Republican bills that get passed. So, sometimes talking to us, and then we know which Republican would be the best one suited for each bill. But as far as advocacy days, I'm happy, I'm thrilled to meet with you all. And I'm on your side, right? So scheduling a 5-minute boost with me where I can be like, yay, 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 you're awesome, you're doing everything, good, good, good. now go and give you some candy. That's what I would do because it's really, you've got to get your stories to the Republicans. And any Republican that will meet with you, spend some time in their office, do some research, know, oh, I see you are a graduate of blah, blah, blah. Make those connections because, you've got me. You've got Kuby. Like, don't waste your time there. See us. We love you. We'll introduce you on the floor and all of that good stuff. But if you can get into the Republican offices, spend the bulk of your time with them.
Thank you so much. Anne, would you mind going next?
Yes, I love what has been shared so far, and I want to say yes to all of that. I also want to say that I think doing your homework with a lobbyist on your own, having a sheet of talking points that you take with you, or having a plan is something that has been a part of my lobby day experience here in Tennessee. We have a super majority Republican legislature the whole time I've lived here. People forget that it wasn't always like that. Tennessee did elect Democrats, not only in the state of Tennessee, but to the Senate, right? Al Gore was a senator from Tennessee. So, one of the things to just remember is the long game. And what you do in the long game is building these relationships. So, it does mean being in rooms with people who disagree with you. I think it's super powerful to know that many of our legislators graduated from the institutions that we work at. They want to know why we think differently. They probably will disagree very openly. I've had some really crazy discussions with people who they have a degree from the institution that I work at, right? But we're both fellow citizens and they've been elected by their local folks to represent them. So I try to be really respectful to share my own story and the story of my coworkers when I'm in the room with them. And I really appreciate that we have representatives. I agree with Representative Gutierrez and Senator Kuby that, we will go in and get, some, high fives with people that are the people that we endorse, that we go door to door for. In our community, we door knock and everything, right? We do the endorsement process through through UCW. And then when we're there, we've planned for the hard conversations. We planned for the work to develop relationships. I think it's just a year in, year out work to do this. And I really can't say enough about how much it's changed my life as a citizen in Tennessee to think about these people as people and to be there in their workplace to advocate for the things that we know are not just right for us, but for our neighbors, for our fellow citizens here in Tennessee. So thank you so much to the representative and the senator for being here and explaining the other end of things.
Thank you so much. All right. And Senator Kuby.
Yes, and I'll be echoing what we've heard today. I'd like to be able to say and give advice and say, well, approach the more moderate senators and representatives. But like I said, this is the most radically right legislature we've ever seen. And many of the moderates were voted out during the primary. So that's a disturbing trend. But there still are a few legislators in our state that I think are willing to hear some of these issues. And I'm working very hard in trying to develop those relationships. I was on a parade on Saturday, walked a parade with Republican legislators and got to talk to them for, an hour. So that was, all these little steps can help. I think telling personal stories is so important that when you have an advocacy day and you're sitting in a senator's or a representative's office, to be able to tell a personal story that they can remember, because you have to keep in mind, like you're having meetings all day long and it's just like nonstop. And to have a personal story that is impactful, you'll remember it as a representative or legislator more than you will if it's just a talking point. I'd also like to say that when you look at ASU through ASU Online, every single county in Arizona is impacted by ASU, and U of A as well with their online programs and NAU, but also the all the extension agents that we have from U of A. It's like every county feels the presence of our state universities, and they're really just in a lot of ways, the gold standards of public universities. And so it's important, yes, to know the background, who graduated from U of A, ASU, and NAU, and know that, and to really talk to them about your personal experience. That has much more impact than maybe hearing, a talking point. And the last thing I'd say is when you go see make sure that it's constituents that are talking to that representative or that senator. I think it's important that you find that you match the people doing the lobbying with the representative or the senator, so that they feel sort of more compelled to listen to you because you're a constituent. And if you're a Republican constituent, even better. You might get listened to more.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, so we've got a few questions in the chat for our panelists here. So I'm just going to start kind of in order here. This one's a little bit of a longer one from Eliza. ASU has established research partnerships with tribal nations, and I imagine U of A and NAU have as well. These are highly likely to be targeted in the anti-DEI frenzy. Who is in charge of liaising with different tribal nations regarding these research agreements? How can we urge them to plan for how they will protect Indigenous sovereignty and scientific integrity if this research is targeted? And by they, I mean contacts among individual tribes as well as Arizona officials. This will have to be a joint effort to work. So whoever would like to take that question.
I can speak more from the ASU perspective because I've been there 25 years, and we have Jacob Moore, who leads the office. I believe it's called of Tribal Relations. It may have changed its name. And ASU has a land acknowledgement that is central to its the way it sees itself. And so all the design standards, the design statements and principles of ASU lead very much towards inclusivity. And so I expect and would hold them accountable if our university and leadership doesn't stand up to those design principles, to that land acknowledgement. And often we've heard from tribal members that they want to see life breathed into those land acknowledgement statements, not meant to be performative, but something that actually impacts the way they make decisions. I know there's the Intertribal Council made up of the 22 tribes in our state, and they're very powerful. I know ASU interacts and works with them very closely. So I would expect and that our university, and maybe I'm naive, but I would expect our university is going to hold firm and hold fast to those principles of inclusivity.
Thanks for your response, Senator Kuby. Could you just repeat real quick the person at ASU you mentioned at the beginning, Jacob something?
You're on mute, Senator Kuby.
Geez, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, Jacob Moore, Moore. And he's a tribal member of I forget which tribe he's from, excuse me, but he's very, very experienced and knowledgeable and appreciated as a good partner. I think the Intertribal Council has a lot of respect for him. Oh, Tohono O'odham. He's Tohono O'odham tribal member, as I recall.
I would just add, I would like to see our universities really protect our students from ICE and clubs that protest to, call out people who they think are not legally documented. I mean, that has been a real disappointment to see. And I would hope that they would strongly support all students, no matter what their status is.
So true. And there was a protest on campus. I was there, and I think there were over 1,000 people at that campus protest. I don't know if you're outside of Arizona, if you heard what happened, but the United Republicans, ASU Republicans United, I think it's called. It's a MAGA white supremacist group, and they called on students to snitch on their fellow students and report them to ICE. It was horrible. So there was a really strong reaction and protest. There were 5,000 people that signed on to a letter that Aliento put together, and then 1,000 people marched for 2 hours on campus on Friday. It was really inspiring to hear the students and hear those who are really representative, I think, at ASU, just embracing dreamers and DACA students especially.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming up with the right name. I don't want to remember their name. I don't want to give them any attention.
All right, we've got another question. This one is more on the labor side. What advice would you give to building power within our union with everything that is going on, just in general? Anyone can chime in.
I'll jump in because I've been doing this nonstop since, I mean, really since November, like when it was very clear that things were going to change really fast. Everybody has a role to play. And figuring out what your role is, that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do. So the number one thing I'm going to say is going to sound so obvious, but you know how you're in the elevator with somebody at work or you're like on campus? That is the opportunity to introduce yourself, to say, I'm a member, and to ask if they're a member of United Campus Workers. That's the beginning of a conversation, right? So I love strangers. That's my favorite thing about union life is being on campus and meeting new people and figuring out, oh, right, we're members, right? We're all a part of this union. The other thing that I think is really important is the people who are really close to you already, your friends, your coworkers, people who are feeling what you're feeling, which is overwhelmed. It's very chaotic. This is purposeful, right? So what are we doing, right? Are we just sitting here reacting to the chaos, doom scrolling our ways into a horrible 2025? No, we're getting organized. We're on a call tonight. What are you going to do after this call tonight? Who are you going to tell about it? Who are you going to invite to the next call, right? You're already working next to people who don't have a path. You have a path. Invite them. We have a vision for a very different future, right? You can hear the senator and the representative offer a different vision. You hear your coworkers offering a different vision. Invite them to come with you, to do one thing together. So it could be a Zoom call. It could be showing up for a protest. It could be you and your coworkers planning for the campaign that's going to win you cost of living raises, right? It could be going to lobby day, but it's about doing one thing this spring that makes a difference in your community. You will feel so much better and you will be getting more organized in the process. So I just want to remind everyone, you are not done asking people to join you in United Campus Workers. There's something really powerful when you get to shake somebody's hand, which I did. I was so proud of myself. I made a goal that I would recruit one person to join me in United Campus Workers, and my coworker Joe, who sits in the cubicle across from mine, he joined, and I was so happy to go over and shake his hand and say, Joe, welcome to United Campus Workers. I can't wait to work with you on whatever we decide we're going to focus our energy on. So yes, invite people, invite people, invite people.
Kelly, did you have a question? Or...
Well, Anne set me up so good to just do our little plug of our next things that are coming up. So I was wondering, Miranda, if I could just do that and then we could go back to the last couple questions because I saw there were a couple in the chat, but I feel like the segue was too perfect. I couldn't hold back.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just share screen again so that everybody sees what the next three things are that we're going to be doing together. Because we really do want to make sure that people not only the people on this call show up, but everyone in any cubicle you ever walk by on any of the campuses that we're at. So these are this event today is leading up to a series of events that's really trying to get us on the same page about advocacy in terms of the state level politics. So we have, let me go see if I can do this and still see people. Okay, great. Everybody disappeared earlier. But the first thing coming up is actually just this Wednesday. So we kind of have a totally packed calendar this month. We have a Know Your Rights training that's coming up on Wednesday that's immigration in the workplace, which obviously, especially at ASU was very hot topic on Friday on our campus, and we hosted this in Spanish last week, and this week it's going to be in English. And we're also hoping to record this event so that we can share it with our membership who's not able to attend. But this is open to everyone who wants to attend. You don't have to be a United Campus Workers member to do so, but we do encourage you to join because, as Anne was pointing out, the time is now. This is when we need to come together to work on advocating for ourselves. And again, this is building up towards ABOR, which is the Arizona Board of Regents, which is coming up on February 13th. So that's going to be next week on Thursday. That's going to be taking place at the ASU Tempe campus. And so we're encouraging folks to show up and to speak during public comment section, which is going to be probably 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so we have a sign up there for people to either, if you want to show up in person, we're going to coordinate rides from Flagstaff and from Tucson. And also, if you're not able to make it in person, still sign up because we can coordinate with you so that if you want to write a statement but can't be there in person, we will make sure we get somebody to read it on your behalf, because it's really important to make sure that all of the regents and all of our university presidents are hearing what we have to say, what our issues are, so they can't claim that no one ever told them what was going on, so they couldn't address the problems. We want to make sure they know what's going on for us. And then our big event is going to be the Higher Education Legislative Advocacy Day, which is going to be March 2nd and March 3rd. And that's in partnership also with the Arizona Student Association, which Miranda has been a big part of helping that collaboration. So they already have 50 students who are signed up, ready to go talk to our legislators on Monday, March 3rd. And we want to make sure we also have staff and faculty voices in the room as well, so that legislators are hearing from everyone's perspective and they can't just write off students because they're students and we don't know any better. So we want to make sure we have everybody's voice there. So please sign up to get more information about that. And again, we'll be coordinating rides from Flagstaff, from Tucson, to make sure that we're all able to attend. And then for people who are already members, I just want to make a pitch for you to consider contributing to the Political Action Fund, because our membership dues, while they go to fund our activities as a union and pay for our organizers and all of our infrastructure, they do not go to any kind of political lobbying. And so that's why we have additional donations that go to the Political Action Fund, that go into a larger pot of money that is handled by Communication Workers of America, which is our national union affiliate. And that is how we are able to make change at the state and national level. So that's another important piece to contribute to as well, if these are the things that matter to you. So again, if you haven't already joined, I encourage you to join tonight, because now is the time to stand up with your coworkers and your students and people across the university to make sure these changes happen. And follow us on social media and keep in touch about everything that's going on. And I'll leave it there. And I hope I left just a few minutes for any other questions that were hanging out in the chat.
Yes, no worries. I have been told that the next question is, from an advocacy point of view, where are the touch points between K through 12 education and higher education, and how should we handle them separately, differently? And I think this can kind of be a free for all, because I think everyone has an opinion about this.
I think there's a, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think there's a really important nexus between public education, higher education, and K-12 education, and it relates to the ESA voucher expansion. If we're looking at a $1 billion program, I mean, there's the original ESA vouchers, which you could say focus on special needs students or school districts that are low performing. Let's just say that's 300 million. There's still $700 million, and most of that is going towards the most wealthy zip codes in our state. And so we hear Republicans not willing to fund disability services and not willing to properly fund higher education. We just need to continually pivot to these ESA expansions and ask, why is this a sacred cow? It's benefiting the wealthiest among us. And we need to really connect those two and really educate people about what's happening with that voucher program and call it what it is. It's a scam, and we need to rein it in and make it accountable. And then we need to stop using pretend budget crisis to really cut back on social services and education.
I totally agree. And I put that in the chat. It is vouchers for higher ed. Also, we always need to talk about workforce. We will not have business and industry coming into Arizona if we do not have strong K through 12 schools and higher ed, community colleges and universities. So that is a huge tie in. And I think that we also need to reach state to state. On Sunday, or I don't know, again, I don't know what day it was, but I met with Representative Glenn from Tennessee, Clark something, and I apologize for that, but he was lovely. And he asked me to talk about the vouchers and how much money they've, just raced away with. And it was a community forum. So I think anytime we can reach out state to state and help each other not have to reinvent the wheel and reach out to our union members who are really good at one thing or the other. We have these communities. So let's not forget that we are not alone. We are on the right side of history here, and we need to come together and help each other because it's too big to each of us, each state, each university reinvent the wheel. So let's bring it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if Tennessee or Georgia if they're right to work states or not.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. That's what this next question is about. So the question is, how has living in a right to work state affected or influenced your strategies in lobbying? Does it change the kinds of things you fight for or how you build relationships with the legislators?
I think there's the right to work state issue. And then on top of that, in Georgia, we're hit even harder, and I don't know the details for Arizona. You might be in a similar situation. But a lot of the states in the Southeast, for public sector workers, it's illegal to have collective bargaining. I don't know where Arizona is on that. But so on top of being a right to work state, which means you don't have to join a union you don't have to pay the dues, basically. So you get free riders. We're up against even more. And we do have a plan to, Georgia's a purple state. And so we are hoping that this kind of goes along with, I think something that was asked about, how do you organize today with everything that's going on? With Trump being in office and all the horrible things he's doing, it's possible that we'll have a backlash in 2026. So that's what I'm hoping. And, maybe we'll get more power from the other side after that, and plan for that to happen eventually. And if Arizona wants a copy of our collective bargaining bill, if it's helpful, we can send that to you. So we've got a bill that we know it's not going to go anywhere. This will be the third time we've introduced it. But once we do have that power, we want to work with the people who, right now we're going around with a checklist, which Democrats are for this bill. So we know, educate them about it. And as soon as they get any power, we want that passed. So there are things you can do, but again, look long term, I think.
All right.
I just want to say that, oh, sorry. Sometimes, I think that there's some folks in the union movement who, and maybe more in the construction trades, who feel a little frustrated by Democrats who commit and make all these commitments in the election season. They take all these donations and then they're kind of silent once they're in the legislature. So, I think we need to show and prove that we have the bills ready to go. We want to be a state like Minnesota that once it became a blue state, it had an omnibus labor bill. And we need to really show unions that we're ready to stand up for union rights and really to make a union-friendly state and get rid of right to work.
Yes. Tear it down. All right. I didn't say that. We have time for one more question here. And again, this is probably kind of for everybody. How do you message to people the importance of engaging with legislators, especially people who are burned out with partisan politics? How do you communicate that higher education shouldn't be partisan?
I mean, it's such a good question. I think at this point, like, we just can't afford to be burned out. I mean, I know that everybody's burned out, but everything is made political. So we have to talk about it. We just don't have the luxury of saying, well, I don't like to talk about politics. We have to. And everything about education has been made political. And so, we don't have to talk about parties, but we can talk about the issues. And the issues are public education, K through 20, is being defunded. That is the truth. That is what's happening. And if we don't talk about that, we are not going to have a public education system in Arizona. So I would say we do not have the luxury of being burned out. So you got to, I'm a yoga teacher. I need to do more yoga. But whatever it is that you can go and kind of get recharged, do it and then come back and fight.
Can I just add one thing? And this is, I know, gets said a lot in the media, but I think it's really important and really true that most people really love their kid's school or their neighborhood school. And that's true about higher ed as well. Most people in Tennessee are Vols fans, right? So the University of Tennessee volunteers are very popular here, even if you've never gone to the University of Tennessee. The local community college is very popular because almost everyone in that community has either gone or knows someone who's gone to the community college. That person is their nurse, their local runs their local car dealership. In our communities, we value the things that we're in relationship to. And so when we go to the Hill, when we go to lobby, whatever it is we're doing, right? Of course, it's political. There are people, that's the polis, right? These are the people that are there. But it doesn't have to be about the partisan parts of it. And I think especially for younger members who are very disenchanted by the two-party system, to say this is a great opportunity to go to talk to people who you would never normally get to talk to and to share about these things. And I've heard it on the call tonight. And I just want to send up both of these amazing representatives, our senator representative here, because I heard them say things like, kids with disabilities are going to lose out. Guess what? That's a everybody issue. Everybody has a friend or family member with a disabled kid. So there's these things that transcend all of this mess. And those are the things that we can speak very loudly and very clearly about.
And just echoing off your comments, I know people are exhausted. And so Brian Garcia, state representative, and Janine Connolly and I were starting this series called Legislators on Your Corner. And we're going to be having a different event every month. And the first event, we're we're inviting other groups, ally groups, issue-based groups, because we know we have people on the issues, right? So we're going to have Lucha there and Chispa and Planned Parenthood and La Familia Vota, voter registration, and Save Our Schools. And we're going to have them give 2-minute elevator pitches and then have speed dating where we have these tables, round tables, and have people just spend more time with those groups and say, which group do you want to get involved with? Because they're all fighting for you. What issue interests you? Because you can be so effective if you focus on an issue and stay away from, talking about it as a Democratic issue or a Republican issue.
Yeah, I love that. All right. I hate to draw this evening to a close. This has been such a great time. Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panelists. We are going to be sending out this recording to the rest of our membership, folks who weren't able to attend. But again, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you taking the time and talking to us about how we can advocate for higher education. We'll do it. We'll get the funding back. It'll happen. Just got to keep going. All right. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for organizing. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.